We started this journey about 5 years ago on the idea of delivering content to the mobile phone. It was such a powerful industry. The potential for that was substantial. It fitted in with a strategy we had for India in Talisman Telecommunications and our subsidiary here, our wholly owned subsidiary, which is called Call to Action India. So we then decided to singularly develop that into a company which is Infimo, which is also part of the Talisman Group, so that could singularly focus on ad and content delivery. The reason why we chose BSNL and looked to them to partner us, as the government carrier we saw them having more reach to the overall Indian audience, but particularly it allowed us to look at providing with BSNL a gateway to the Indian population from the government. It could be an ability, a pipeline for them to deliver information to the public through the mobile phone network. I can't see any disadvantages apart from you're fighting a mega monster. Google and Facebook, I think, have something like 84% of that audience, of the mobile marketing audience, but it's primarily delivered through Wi-Fi. Everybody has forgotten the telco and the role that the networks can provide in their whole mobile network setup. It hasn't been used efficiently, and as we know, the mobile networks through the world, the telcos generally throughout the world, are starting to suffer now as voice and data gets cheaper. So they have to develop another product. Mostly to develop another product, there's significant capex and infrastructure costs. We can do that without any increase at all to the cost base for the telco. So it's very attractive for the telco to participate. Fighting a Google and a Facebook, we can do that where they're obviously a very sizable competitor, but we're doing it in a different way, and we think a far more compelling way, far more engaging way, and we're doing it in a way where from the interest of the brand and the consumer, their information is not being abused. It's not going into the great walled garden that is Facebook and Google, where that information goes in there and is shared with whoever, and the brand and the consumer suffer. In our way, that doesn't happen, and then most importantly, they're rewarded for doing that. So for one of the first times, they're given a reward, an incentive for looking at an ad, and in our case, an ad that they enjoy looking at. It's relevant to them. So we think we can be a very significant, very legitimate challenger to what Google and Facebook are doing without competing directly head-on with the way they do it. We're doing it in a different way. We think a safer way, a better way, a more appealing way, and a more rewarding way. Yeah, no, look, I think it's a very, very good point. Spam is something that we all don't enjoy. Spam ends up being just a lot of content, monotonous content, and quite often and mostly content that you're not interested in. If you can bring it down to it not being monotonous, not being regular, so you're not seeing the one ad all the time, and that's the problem with television. You just get a constant ad depending on who the brand is. If they pay more, you're getting that ad coming across, every ad break, and then you can't get any escape. If you swap channels, you generally find that same brand or ad is on the other channel, so you can't get away from it. But in reality, the greatest form of spam is television advertising. We all put up with it. In this case, because it's relevant, it'll be irregular. That won't be the same ad coming. So when you saw the demonstration on the screen and the phone lit up, that won't be the same ad every time. So if you get 3 calls in the space of the next 10 minutes, there'll be 3 different ads, but all ads that are relevant to your interests. So it's going to be very difficult for people to see it as spam, because that's exactly what we set out not to do, not to be seen as just another spam agent. I think the point that I made before, we all know that people's time is getting less because there's more and more interests that are happening. So time is hugely important to people. So it is been our challenge to get it to a point where the ads that they see are of their interest. If they're wasting time seeing stuff that they don't like, that's when it gets difficult, fatigue sets in, etc. But short of getting away from having no ads at all, you won't really get ad fatigue. You'll get ad annoyance, but if those ads are relevant to your interest, as I as I said, if you're interested in cars, buying car magazines are something that you enjoy doing, whereas if you're an 80-year-old lady in a wheelchair, someone giving you a car magazine of absolutely no interest to you and probably annoys you. So the relevance of the ads to your interest is highly important. Yeah, we're doing it in Indonesia as well. They were the first 2 markets that we headed to, because the idea was to do it in Southeast Asia generally first. India was the first one for the obvious reasons. It's where our technology development team has been for 5 years in Bangalore. So India was the obvious first choice, and BSNL was our first choice for the reasons I touched on a little earlier. Indonesia being a hugely populous country as well, and Indonesians spend more time looking at their phone and being on the phone than I think anywhere else in the world. So Indonesia was a prime market. The rest of the market will concentrate for the next 12 months on the general Southeast Asian region. Places like we've well advanced in the Philippines. We can do that in the Philippines very quickly. And the Philippines and India have some attractions for progression into the Middle East, particularly into the United Arab Emirates, because of the expat populations, and Filipinos and Indians that are there all want to connect with home. So we can do that, and if we can deliver to them a number of ads that pays for the phone calls and the data, that's a huge attraction to an expat to be able to talk to home frequently without the burden of the cost. So our areas of concentration are in this region before we move to the US. Well, I think that's probably the question and the answer are one and the same, that the telcos now are suffering enormously from revenues from voice and data. They're coming down and they're not going to go back up again. So the telcos have to reinvent themselves, and in a way there's nothing new about that. A lot of utilities have gone through that, directories have gone through that, the post offices, the government post offices worldwide have gone through that they were deliverers of letters and cards, and all of a sudden that's dried up and is essentially nothing. What's changed now, what's transformed there is the delivery of larger articles from people that are doing online buying, that they're now getting delivery of larger parcels. So there's been a transformation, a shift change, and in this case with the telecoms exactly the same. They need a new product, and if they can get that without the capital costs and the infrastructure costs, it's very appealing to them. But they can use, and we can use, their networks, their established networks, their towers, etc. So we can deliver the ads in the normal way of phone calls and SMSs being delivered across those networks without Wi-Fi. With just one in India, yeah, the undertaking with BSNL is that we would give them a period of exclusivity, which they would obviously ask for, and we were happy to give. But we'll expand into India at the end of that period, as we will with other parts of, as I say, Southeast Asia, and then into the US. I mean, this is a global fit. There's a global opportunity for every telco in the world, and as you probably know, there's a huge number of telcos worldwide. So all of those are going to have to embrace that, because they all suffer from exactly the same problem. They're all getting revenue poor.